Hello, my friends. It's Ranger Russ from the Meigs Nature Center coming to you today from Putnam Memorial State Park in Redding. And you can see behind me the monument constructed in 1888, a year after this property was designated as Putnam Park. And then it became a state park down the road after that. So I want to let everybody know, just a quick reminder, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we're going to have our live atlatl presentation. So you can watch on Facebook Live. We're going to be learning all about an atlatl from a former world champion atlatl thrower. Gary Nulf will be joining me at Meigs Point. We'll go live Facebook tomorrow at 10 o'clock. These programs will continue Tuesday through Friday at 11 o'clock. So please continue to watch. And I'm going to remind everybody to please let everyone you know subscribe to our YouTube channel. We need 1,000 subscribers on YouTube before we can begin to do YouTube Live as well as these Facebook Lives that we're doing. All right, I'm going to flip the camera around and we're going to talk a little bit about the Revolutionary War. You can see there's a cannon over there. I'm always fascinated by those. And there is our monument. The sign over here says, I believe it's 42 feet tall with a 2-foot granite ball on top. All made from native granite, locally quarried. So that's very cool. Now it's going to be a little unstable today. At the end of my program yesterday, my gimbal went out and it has not refunctioned. So I have to delete all the things out of it and we'll get that back up and running. So we might be a little shaky today. I got to do this by hand. Now, I noticed these piles of stone. I'm not sure what they are. I believe they could actually be graves, but I don't know. This is my first time visiting this park. There are lots of these little stone mounds. I wish I had gotten here a little earlier. I could have found someone that worked here to fill me in. One of the maintainers is over there painting a sign right now. But we're going to walk along here. Oh, look at this. Beautiful. So here's a, what is that? A mockernut hickory tree right here. And right next to it is a shagbark hickory. I love it when they put these trees next to each other. I don't know that these were planted for sure, but it's pretty cool. So here we've got a shagbark hickory. You can see the peeling bark. And there you see the mockernut. It's got this beautiful crisscross pattern in the bark that's actually smooth. The surface is smooth and then it's rough in between. The really old growth is all rough down there. But it's still very cool. Oh, we got to see something over here. Look at that. There's a, what is this? A black birch tree here. And it looks like it's growing on buttresses. It's hollow right in the middle. Look at that. So the root, these roots are holding this tree off the ground. I'm not sure what happened, why this tree grew this way. I'm guessing that there was something there underneath that got washed away, some soil. Or maybe it grew on a log that rotted away. How cool is that? I don't know that I've ever seen a tree, not this kind of tree anyway. There are trees in the forests, the rainforests of Belize and South and Central America that grow like this. That's how they grow, on buttresses. But this is a black birch growing suspended by its roots. All right, so we're gonna move down here. Again, look at that beautiful shagbark hickory. Perfectly straight. I'm gonna guess that that tree grew with some other trees a little closer around it. There's no branches low until you get high. All right, so we're going to walk along here. Actually, maybe this sign will tell us what these stone mounds are. And I think I can see this little outline here. You see the brick? Here comes a park employee. This brick, these look like they were huts. So these may have been, this was the winter camp, which we'll get into. Ah, there you go. The sign tells us. Enlisted men's encampment. 116 log huts. Double rows, almost a quarter of a mile. Company streets. The collapsed, so the stone are the chimneys. 16 feet wide, 12 feet deep. Each hut was occupied by 12 soldiers. All right. These 4 huts here were occupied by 48 soldiers. These 4 huts that are outlined in brick, there would have been 48 men staying in these 4 huts. 12 men to a hut. The stone is just the chimney. So it was a log hut. That boggles my mind. Look at the size of that. 12 men sleeping in here. Oh my goodness. They had to hot bunk that. Oh, for Navy people. Hot bunking is when someone sleeps in your bunk during the day and then you sleep in it at night. So you actually share a bed with someone. All right, let's keep going. Do we have any questions? Amazing park. I need to take a ride up there. It was a little over an hour drive up here, but absolutely gorgeous. Once you got off the highway, driving up here is a beautiful part of the state. And I know that I say that about every part of the state, but it actually really is gorgeous up here. There's a big tree that's recently come down. The leaves are still green and look unwilted. Look at that, root mass is up. Let's take a peek here. Oh, look at this. One of my all-time favorite trees is the yellow birch. It gets this shaggy, yellowy bark. I love yellow birch. Don't know why that one's always appealed to me. Look at this. This is interesting. So you see how tall this stands. This tree, when it went over, had to shift towards us because this distance from that edge to here is not tall enough, not wide enough to support that. So I'm guessing there's going to be more of a hole on this side. No. That's very interesting. Look at that. You can see the rocks held by this tree. What is this, an elm? I think that's an elm. And look at this. This is a witch hazel. And there's witch hazel growing out of where this tree came down. It's still here. And witch hazel actually will grow in out bending over. So this may actually survive as long as it's getting enough water and nutrients from the roots here of this mass. That still may be able to live. This is absolutely incredible. So that's 2 things here. Again, we're at Putnam Memorial State Park that I have, well, I shouldn't say I've never seen that first tree we looked at growing like that, but I've never seen, have seen witch hazel and other things growing out of a tree that's come down. So again, let's get back out on our trail and continue to talk about Israel Putnam. So Putnam was from Salem, Massachusetts. His family, I believe it was his father, it may have been his grandfather, actually was against the Salem witch trials. And after one of the elderly women in their community was condemned, he wrote a dissertation, I guess, against the execution of this woman, saying that the witch trials were not proper and not right. Unfortunately, she was executed, and in the fervor of the execution, apparently they executed her sister as well. So, not successful there. But Putnam joined the British Army. Israel Putnam joined the British Army. I believe he started as a lieutenant in the British Army. He went to New York to fight the French and Indians in the French and Indian Wars. And so this continues with these huts here that would have been all the way along this track here. But we're going to head over here. We're going to go down towards the museum. Or, I don't know. See, I haven't been here. I'm just going to wander around until we find something interesting. Burning bush. It's starting to turn red. I will admit this is a beautiful shrub, but this is an invasive species. If you have them in your yard, please consider taking them out and replacing them with blueberry or winterberry or some native shrub that our native wildlife can use. Okay, so Israel Putnam is fighting the French-Indian Wars. He acquits himself quite well and gets promoted through the ranks all the way up to a colonel. So when he leaves the British service, he is a colonel in the British Army. Later, so let's jump ahead. The Battle of Lexington and Concord occurs, and Putnam hears about it. It's said that he's out plowing his field with his son when he hears about the battle of Lexington and Concord. And he immediately, they said he just left the plow in the field attached to the horse. He went, got some belongings together, hopped on a horse, and 8 hours later, he was joining the Americans. There's a hairy woodpecker. Oh, it's going to be too hard for you guys to see. He's way back in those trees. Let's see if I can zoom in here. The hairy woodpecker looks so much like a downy woodpecker. They're actually really hard to tell. The downy's much smaller, but when the hairy gets to a certain size, it's flying around back there, then you can identify it because it's substantially larger than a downy. But very often a hairy woodpecker is about the same size as a downy woodpecker. So it is hard to tell the two apart. There's another bird. This is migratory season, so we're getting warblers and finches and sparrows and all sorts of other birds migrating through at this time. So you never know what we're going to find out here. There's a really nice tulip tree right here. Let's zoom back so you guys can take a look. Nice straight tree. Now, if you were watching the other night when that wind hit my house, I went out and filmed the tulip tree. I would not get near it because tulips are brittle. And when they start swaying like they were, I expect pieces to break off. The oaks and maples are a little bit more resistant to that sway that you get. All right, now that trail that was back there that led to the museum is currently not open, but on the other side of the road, Route 58 runs down. You're not going to be able to see it from here, but over there is Route 58. On the other side of that is the pond that's part of the park and some more hiking and trails and things like that. Take a look here. We've got another invasive species. This is Japanese barberry. Very prickly. If my cousin Brad is watching, one time he was walking through this with a friend of ours and started feeling prickling and thought that it was the barberry, and it turned out that they walked through a yellow jacket nest. Both of them got stung quite a bit. I don't remember getting stung very much, but I do remember them turning and taking off, leaving me standing there wondering what was going on. So I don't think I got stung. But that's Japanese barberry. That's another one that you preferably would take out and not leave in your yards. Another black birch there. There's a nice little culvert here, or a little gully down there. That looks cool. Okay, so Putnam heads off. He joins the Army. It wasn't the Continental Army. Before the Continental Army, I can't remember the name. I think it was like the Army of Conscience or something like that, which was very interesting. But he joins the Colonials, and he actually participated in the Battle of Bunker Hill, where again he was really stood out during that battle as a great commander. Now, during the Battle of Bunker Hill, many of you know the story, do not fire until you see the whites of their eyes. Many of the colonial commanders are given credit for that phrase, and he is one of the ones that they say he was the first one to say it, and it was repeated by others. But it is really unknown who the first colonial to say don't fire till you see the whites of their eyes. So take a look at this bittersweet vine right here. Look at how thick this is. Now at Hammonasset we've done some measuring of these. We actually had a contest one year where we were cutting invasive species, and I think that the biggest one was almost 9 inches around. So it was a pretty hefty bittersweet. Park staff are always busy, undermanned, but are the invasive bushes ever removed? Yes, the invasive bushes are removed many times. At least at Hammonasset, we use a lot of volunteer help to remove invasives, but park staff will do it as well, and I'm sure they do it up here. And it's very time consuming to remove these invasives. So here we're looking at a mass of invasives. We've got some Japanese barberry there. So here we've got Japanese barberry. We've got bittersweet here. We've got burning bush up here. And I thought I saw some honeysuckle, and I'm not seeing any honeysuckle, so I was mistaken. But that's a clump of invasive plants. Now when they're all together like this, we could come in with a brush hog and just take those right out, which is not very time consuming. But when the invasives are spread out and scattered, it's a little bit more time consuming because you don't want to just mow down native plants as well. So there is a percentage, once it's over 80% of invasives, then we can mow it. If it's under that, then you have to go in and selectively take out the invasives. There's quite a bit to this. Here's something. Officers' quarters. Okay, so back to the Battle of Bunker Hill. Israel Putnam really stands out during the battle. He then participates in the siege of Boston, which forces the British out of Boston. So they were successful in getting the British out of Boston. And I'm going to go up this little path. It looks like a really nice rock formation up in here. Okay, so after the Battle of Boston, we're going to jump ahead, and the Continental Army is formed. The Continental Congress votes on the commanders. Washington is the overall commander. He was in a unanimous decision. And then there were 4 brigadier generals. Israel Putnam was the only one of those 4 that was a unanimous decision. So he becomes one of the brigadier generals. And there we've got a little sparrow swinging on a branch. There's another one eating some seeds there in the ferns. Very cool. Here's our forest asters. If you saw my Miller's Pond last week, had loads of aster all through it. So Putnam becomes a brigadier general, and the next major engagement that of any significance is the battle which takes place on Long Island, in which the Continental Army is forced off of Long Island. So it's a complete defeat, and the Continental Congress wants to blame Israel Putnam. But Washington, who observed the battle, he was not the commander of the battle, but he observed it, he knew that it wasn't Putnam's fault and actually gave Putnam credit for saving Washington from being captured or killed by the British. So Washington defended him. That looks like a basswood. Shaped like a tulip, but I can't see any leaves from down here. Actually, I think I'm looking at the leaf of a different tree. I'm going to go with tulip because that was my first instinct. I still can't see the leaves definitively. It's a beautiful tree, though. Tulips are also known as yellow poplars. They're in the poplar family. Okay, so next, Putnam ends up here. This was the winter encampment. So all those huts that we saw there were 12 men in a tiny little hut. This is where they spent the winter, 1778 to 79. And during that winter, ooh, I totally missed this invasive when I came back. This is Japanese knapweed. And if you've seen my video when I went to Harkness Memorial, there was a massive grove of this Japanese knapweed. Actually looks very similar to bamboo, has a hollow stem, but it is not bamboo. And it's gone to seed right here. It actually is a beautiful plant if you think about it. Those are beautiful little seed pods there. If you've missed any of my past videos, you can see them on our YouTube channel, the Meigs Point Nature Center YouTube channel. You can also go to meigspointnaturecenter.org, the virtual learning center, and see more videos there, or all of the videos, past videos. Here is another invasive. This is multiflora rose. You can see it's got that, look at these thorns here. So the fresh thorns are black, all right? The older thorns turn this tan color. These tan ones will break off inside of you. If you go through this and they really get hooked into you, the tips of them will break right off and become very uncomfortable slivers. All right, do we have any questions? Farther I go into the park, the more I'm breaking up. All right, good to know. Maybe we can head down towards the road and get a little better signal. There is a path down here, so. And I hear 58. Okay. Are you concerned you might see a bear in the state park? I am not very concerned about seeing a bear in Connecticut. I actually think I would be pretty excited if I saw one. But for the most part, if I encountered a bear, all you have to do is be bigger and louder than the bear. And generally, those bears are going to be out of there. So I'm not too concerned with encountering bears in Connecticut. All right. This path. There are beautiful wide paths here at Putnam Memorial State Park. Again, this is a Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection facility. It would have become a park probably when the Park and Forest Commission was first formed. I found another invasive here, which was 1918, something like that. The Park and Forest Commission was formed, and because this was a park, Putnam Park, shortly after that it became a state park. So this invasive that I encountered is wineberry. Get some nice, really red sticky berries that are very tasty, but it is an invasive species. Okay. I hear you left well all the way from Lake Champlain, your favorite spot. A bit of static. All right, hopefully we're going to get into a little clearer area here. Look at these tulip trees. Look at the size of that tree right there. Show you the tree. Kaboom. Two of them side by side. Some giant tulips in here. Tulips are fast-growing trees, so not going to be as old. If an oak was that big, it would be substantially older. More than twice as old, I would guess. Look at this beautiful grove of fern in here. I bet this is gorgeous in the summer when all that fern is green. Okay, so we left off. Israel Putnam is here at a winter encampment. Now, there were 3 encampments established here in Reading and the neighboring town of, I'm blanking on the name, I think it's Bethel. They scouted this area ahead of time. Putnam thought it would make a great encampment. And the engineers that laid this out, everybody says this is a really well-designed set of encampments. They controlled the roads. Oh, we can go over and look at the pond from here. They controlled all of the highways in and out of these towns. It also gave them access to a supply depot, which was near here, which was actually attacked and destroyed by the British the year before this encampment, and was rebuilt. And they wanted to camp the army here for the winter so that they could help defend that supply depot. Also, this was in easy access of West Point, which was they would be able to support West Point if needed. And they could assist any of the communities along Long Island Sound could be accessed from here as well. So this became a really ideal spot to put one of the Continental armies for the summer. And it was his division, it was Israel Putnam's division that was here, which was 4 groups. I think they were brigades. 2 from Connecticut, and I think 1 from Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and I don't know where there is a giant water beetle in there. Oh, you're not going to be able to see it. It is cold water for that little water beetle. I guess it hasn't gotten that cold if he's swimming around down there. Okay, so this is a great place for a camp. The 3 camps were on hills. They were about a mile and a half away from each other, each one. And they were on a hill with water at the bottom of the hill, a stream to provide plenty of fresh water. So great location for these encampments. Now, in December of 1778, some of the soldiers, mostly the Connecticut soldiers, it had to be said that they were the 2 Connecticut brigades, they became very disgruntled. They were not getting their allotted supplies. Let's take a look at this cannon for a second. I do not believe this cannon there's no way. This is not a Revolutionary War cannon. It's probably closer to War of 1812 era cannon here. So, let's see if it says. This is a CA and Company number 535-57106. Doesn't say how many pound cannon that is, but don't think that's Revolutionary War. All right, so the men were supposed to get 1 blanket from Connecticut, a blanket from the Continental Congress, a pair of shoes if needed, a shirt, breeches, and a pair of socks. So the men wrote this letter that they were not getting their supplies. that most of them only got one blanket, and if they got a pair of socks, they didn't get a shirt, or if they got a shirt, they didn't get breeches. So they were not getting their complete allotment, and they were suffering. They were also being paid in money that was drastically losing its value as they were stationed there, which was putting their family members in poverty. They were very upset by this. Putnam seemed to be more concerned about desertion and spies, but the Continental Congress replied that these men needed their supplies. And I'm not sure when they got their supplies, but there was no revolt of the men, which the letter kind of implied would be coming if they didn't get their blankets and clothes. And I imagine the winter out here would be a pretty rough winter. If you think about Valley Forge, which most people think of as the winter encampment where the men were cold and didn't have proper gear. All right, we're coming up onto, this is the museum or something. Find out what it is. All right, so revolt is averted. Putnam maintains control of his men. Now, in order to establish himself or put down any spies and desertions, which happened regularly with all of the Continental armies, he decided that the next spy and or deserter to be captured would be executed quickly and as an example to everyone else. This is a really cool looking house here. It's got very modern air conditioning. Oh, there's the state worker painting another sign over there. All right, we'll let them do that. Somewhere, there we go. There's a trail. All right, hopefully I'm still coming in clearly. Now, so they did capture someone that they thought was a spy. He was a Welshman that had been living in Connecticut for some time. And he said that he was hired by the army as a butcher and sent to where he was caught, which was within the lines of the army, sent to purchase beef. He was found guilty of being a spy, sentenced to death. Shortly after that, they captured a deserter who was 16 or 17 years old, and he was court-martialed and sentenced to death. Putnam, for the spy, was supposed to be hung, and they had him climb a ladder with a rope around his neck, and when he was told to jump off, he said no, that he was innocent. It is said that Putnam drew his sword and said, "Jump or meet the end of my sword." The man did not jump, and the ladder was kicked out from under him. So that's how he was executed. And then the deserter was shot, that was the sentence for deserters. He was shot, and they said that he was not killed by the 3 bullets that struck him in the chest, and that he was twitching or spasming. I don't want to get into too much detail here, but he was shot again at close range, and being at such close range, it caught his clothing on fire. He was placed in a coffin. And now this is not confirmed by all historians, but every soldier in that encampment was forced to walk by him and view his body while he lay in the coffin with his clothing on fire. So Putnam was really trying to make a point. I just find that story so fascinating that or gruesome. I don't know. We have very different ways of looking at things nowadays, I guess. There's a really beautiful maple. Oh no, it's an oak tree. Oak tree. Look at that. How large is the park? I wish I knew. That was one of the questions I was going to ask the staff here. And actually, maybe I can swing over and find out. I always like to check those sorts of things, what year the park was established and how many acres it is. But that was not on our DEEP website, so unless it was somewhere where I wasn't looking, we'll have to find that out for you. Any other questions? Very snowy area. Very close to Fairfield, but couldn't protect it from being burned by the British. All right. So you're hearing static. I'm going to disconnect my mic. I'm wondering if I'm having issues. All right, see if that's any better. We're just about done anyway. We're coming back up on the monument here. Look at this. Got some nice fall colors, which I didn't know if we would get a good colorful fall this year because of our weather pattern's been so out of whack. But there's some really nice yellows up in this area today. Look at that. There's a picture for a postcard. Look at that monument. We should take a walk over there. How much was their pay? I didn't find out how much the pay was. I just know that the currency of the time was getting struck by inflation pretty drastically. And it's described that while they camped here, day by day, the money was just getting worth less and less. So many of the Connecticut troops were unhappy. Carol, don't worry about it. I am at Putnam Memorial State Park in Redding, Connecticut. There we go. They were here till May 25th. How long was that winter? Wow. Now, I did see that most of this land was donated by 3 people. There's a sign down at the entrance in 1888. Shortly the year before, 1888 was when this monument was constructed. But the year before, 3 people that lived in the area, I guess they owned this land, and the original land donation was through them. This is a Norway spruce, not a native, obviously Norway spruce. Some consider it an invasive. I don't know. I haven't seen it like growing like an invasive wood, taking over areas and harming the environment. Here we have a really nice white pine, very native. Let's go over, we'll end over by this pond. Let's take a look at this giant quartz boulder. I'd like to have that in my yard. Who wouldn't want to have this in their yard? It looks like a giant quartz egg. How cool is that? All right. Looks like these are more chimneys here. So there were some of the army was stationed here. And let's go down here to our pond. This is beautiful. There's a bench and everything. How cool is this? There's a dam. I would not think this would be a natural place for a pond, but very nice place. I bet there was a stream that flowed through here and they just dammed it up. All right, so I want to let everyone know, again, tomorrow, 10 o'clock, we're going to be doing an Atlatl program live on Facebook. That's tomorrow at 10 o'clock. If you don't know what an Atlatl is, tune in, because you will want to know what an Atlatl is. Very, very interesting program with a world champion Atlatl thrower, former world champion Atlatl thrower. Also, you continue to see these programs Tuesdays through Fridays at 11 o'clock. I sound like I'm doing commercials, don't I? Look, this is awesome. If you miss a program live, you can view it on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Meigs Point Nature Center YouTube channel. Also, follow us and like us on Facebook. And you can visit meigspointnaturecenter.org. The Virtual Learning Center has lots of fun and educational information that goes along with these. Sometimes we'll put links up to other deep websites, especially about our animals. You can also connect through our website to other deep facilities like Kellogg Environmental Center, Dinosaur State Park. You can view No Child Left Inside activities, Great Park Pursuit when that's happening, Sky's the Limit, Goodwin Conservation Center. There's a lot of things on our website that would be very helpful, I think, to homeschools, even in classroom education. So please tune in to all of those. All right, we'll see if we have any questions before I wrap it up. Quartz boulder, nice for the cemetery stone. That would be. I think that one's got a lot of fractures in it, though. How cool these trees growing in and around all these rocks. So these trees eventually, when they get too big, that's going to be an ideal candidate for that root pop up there. Those roots are not going to be able to get deep enough to hold a really large tree, even though it can hold that one there now. Eventually, I don't think those roots will be able to hold on, especially in high winds or when the soil gets too wet. All right. So I'm thinking that the microphone was causing some static there, and we're better now. We're going to end it right here viewing this beautiful pond. I hope to see you all, or have you all watching tomorrow at 10 o'clock Facebook Live. Until then, this is Ranger Russ signing off from Putnam Memorial State Park in Redding, Connecticut. Thank you.